right. Good evening. This is a Thursday night in the lab. When I do these little in the lab lives, I am really just kind of trying to figure some things out with the live streaming setup, the live streaming gear, some of the technology, some of the little gadgets and lights and all kinds of little things. Sometimes I'm coming on just to bounce some ideas around in my own head and to get some feedback from anybody who just happens to come across one of these lives. Tonight I am playing around with a couple of ideas of some layouts. I was watching, I don't even know what station it was. I was watching some news show, and I saw a little layout, camera layout, where they had, I think, 5 people on screen. And in just a little bit before I finish tonight, I'm going to play around with that and see if I can kind of recreate that. And I'm going to do it live on the stream. It's going to be boring for probably 99.5% of you. But for that 0.5 who just might be interested in that, I don't know who in the world would be interested in that on a Thursday night at 9 o'clock. But I'm going to fool around with that a little bit. And then I'm going to also bounce around some ideas on the 5. If you read the title for tonight, you saw something, the 5, and then a dash and a question mark. And that's because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to call this 5, but they're basically 5 principles that I'm looking at. I don't know if I'm calling them principles or 5 ideas or 5 areas of interest that I want to use as a way for the church to engage the community. Those 5 areas. So I'm going to go through them as I switch to another scene here in just a minute. So let's do that. And by the way, again, you saw, if you read the titles on this, you see that if anybody is interested to hop on while I'm live, there is a link. You can click that link and hop on, and then you can talk with me live, audibly and visibly, and all that good stuff. All right, so let's shift down to, let's go down here. Nope, not there. Here. Okay. Let's start here. Nope. Okay, yeah, let's start here. So this was a scene and a layout that was created totally 100% in Ecamm. I didn't use any other graphics programs like Canva or Keynote or anything else. All of what you see here and here, even these name tags are a little awkward. Font more than anything else, I think. All right, so we're going to try to take this and we're going to try to recreate that scene which I saw. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of some of that background. I'm going to get rid of these little, I don't know what you call them, these little bars. Pull them off. And we're going to try to turn these. You know what? I don't think I can do it. So basically what I saw was something like this. There were 4 cameras. All right, we'll make them all the same size just by copying and pasting the others. So Option click, drag this down. That way I know it's exactly the same size. Option click, drag down. That's why I know that's the same size as the one above it. Okay, so what I did see then was there was a 5th camera. I can't really tell if those are all the same size. Okay, just to make sure, let's get rid of those because I know these were the same size. Option click, drag. So I'm positive this is the same size now. Yep. and there. All right. So you had those cameras there, and then you had them commenting and looking at something that was like over here. And maybe that was maybe that was like a screen share or something like that. Let's go ahead and pull that up and pretend like that's what we're doing. Crop that. Let's just assume or pretend like these people over on my left, which these people are really all me, somehow having some conversation or dialogue about what's on this website. And of course, that's a live website. You can just browse, pull that up. All right. But what if there's 5 people? So the 5th, what I saw was they did a diamond shape 5th camera in the center of all of that. And I don't think I'm going to be able to reproduce that just in this program alone. I think it can be done, but I think I'd have to do it in something else. So, but let's pretend like we think we can. So in theory, let's get this, pull this, drag this to about the same size. Yep. That's a little bigger. Okay. So that's about the same size as that. And now we're going to create a border. Let's make that border color just plain white so that it's easier to see. All right. That's what we're doing. You know what? I don't think this is going to work unless this is a perfect square. That is most likely correct. But anyway, we'll get the point. Now what we do is that I can rotate this box. Let me go with try to do the perfect square thing. I don't have a way to make sure it's perfect. At least I forgot. There we go. That's closer. Anyway. All right, now let's rotate it. I don't think that's as okay. More diamondish. Boom, there we go. And so we would imagine, or you would need to imagine with me, that these other cameras are situated something like that. And yeah, this isn't going to work because of some stuff. I can make it work, just it's not going to work, but I'll show you. So when we come to fill for this center square, we're going to come to the fill, we're going to put none. So there's no fill there. And then in theory, you would bring back in one of these other cameras. And let's smallen it up. Basically, you have a way to fit that thing right in there, but you'd cut off those edges. And the way you cut them off is you have to have something else going on. Yeah, that's the concept anyway. So I'm going to work on that, seeing how I can perfect this and make this work, because I think this layout makes it easy to kind of fit 5 people in without it looking somewhat awkward with 3 and 2. If you've got a column of 3 and then a column of 2, or a row of 3 and then a row of 2, that can be, that's just an option for having 5 up, a 5 up style layout. So I will have to play around with that, I think, outside of Ecamm to find a way to make that work how I am envisioning it in my head. All right, but that's the gist of it. All right. Trying to get in this middle of that. All right. Let's see what this might look like just stacked like that without the diamond. That's not terribly bad. It's not the same size as the others, so you definitely would want the same size aspect. Just as much distance between top and bottom as I do between left and right. That actually could work, couldn't it? Just as that is. Can create a little bit more separation if we go ahead and throw a border back on there. Boom. And there we go. Yes. Maybe. Tell me what you think. Throw some comments if you get this far. I would love the feedback. Yeah, throw that on all of them. This was a long day today. Lots of interesting thing going on in the world of pastoring a local church with a school and kids and not school kids. All right, so yeah, that middle square is smaller than the rest, isn't it? Okay, let's do this. Get rid of it. And then we're just gonna reproduce this one by option clicking and dragging. And we're gonna pull it to the top. But we now know that it is the same size as the rest. Boom. This guy down here is cutting his head off, which would be my head. So the fix would be just a slight, to create just a little bit more vertical space. But we have to even it out, both top and bottom. Almost feels like it's too much space. Okay, let's create a little bit more left and right by doing this. See if that makes it feel a little better. Not really positive on the feel of that, whether we do them tighter like this. Of course, again, if I do it tighter, I'm over top of bottom left's head. And they have to be all the way over here in order to be seen. And then this guy has to, well, he can be pretty centered. All right, so that's just an idea of just that layout. Let me get into talking about this idea of these 5 things. So I am looking at or just thinking about doing a new set of live streams that are going to cover 5 different areas that I'd like to deal with when it comes to, is that what I wanted to do? Let's come back here. There we go. When it comes to dealing with our community. So the whole idea of what do we do to be impactful and relevant inside of the communities that we work. So I've looked at 5 different areas, and I'm going to throw them up here. And again, if anybody gets into or this far in this video, love to have some feedback. I'm going to type them up. It's not going to be cute or pretty, but we're going to see what we can do to make it work. All right, let's find a good font. All right, let's go with that Montserrat. Let's go with a bold, and then let's roll with this. Okay. So first one is easy, right? Most churches have an idea about this. They're involved to some form or another. This is kind of built into our structure. We've got schools. So number 1 is education. Boosting education. What are the educational needs? What are the educational concerns in the communities around us? Can we as a church, even if we don't have a church school, can we meet some educational needs? So maybe that's an after-school program, a tutoring program. Maybe it's a way to help fund some schools in the area. Maybe it's getting members of the church to go and to read to kids in the classroom. Things like that. Maybe I've seen people, they do that first day of school and everybody comes, the adults come and they cheer the kids on as they're coming into school for that first day of school, and really kind of showing that support to both the kids and the parents, by the way. That supports, I think, not just the young people, but also parents benefit from that. So those are some things, and it's big. I mean, some of us have schools in our churches and our facilities, and so what are some ways that those schools can impact the community? Here's another thing. What if we were to go to our education departments within our towns, our cities, our counties, Board of Education or whatnot, and let's find out what are the top 3 concerns. What are the top 3 concerns in our community when it comes to education? And then we as a church, and like if you're in a place where you've got multiple churches, it gets even, well, I was going to say easier, but maybe it's not easier, but there's more potential for more impact. So we pull those our folk together and we say, hey, the county has said, the county school board of education has said, these are their top 3 concerns with education in the community. They may say something like, our 3rd grade reading comprehension level is only at whatever percent. And we say we need it to be, and they're saying we need it to be higher than that. So then churches get together and say, well, how can we in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, what strategy can we put in place that we as a people of faith, as a integral part of this community, what can we structure and put together that can move that mark from where it is right now, where our neighbors and the people in our community have said it is, what can we do that in 5 years' time we know that we have put something in place that is structured, that is objective-based, that is measurable, that we can say that we have helped in the community by moving that third grade reading comprehension level from, 60% to 90%. And we set that goal, we put things in place, we have ways to measure it so that we make a difference where we are. So that's something like education. Let's say, well, what else? That's number one. Well, they're not numbered, but that's one of the 5. What's another one of the 5? I'm so glad that you asked. Come here, education. Why can't I make it move? There it goes. All right. So in addition to education, again, this is kind of an easy one for us. And you probably can guess what I'm typing. Boom. There we go. Health. Again, you guys know, if you're familiar with Adventist Church, Seventh-day Adventist Church is big on health, has a big health message, has lots of health institutions, just like we have lots of educational institutions, etc. Same concept, going to our county health department and saying, hey, what are the biggest concerns? And I'm not talking about going and doing the stuff that we always do and that we already do and we do just because. Let's be specific in meeting a need and meeting an issue. So meeting a problem that is recognized by the people, our neighbors, and the people that we live and work among. So you go to the county health department and you say, hey, county health department, what's one of the biggest issues? Give us your top 3 issues in this county. County comes back and says, I don't know, maybe it is adolescent diabetes. Maybe another one is high blood pressure. Maybe another one is, pick one. And they come up with another one. So then we come back and we say, we do the same thing. Be very intentional, be very strategic, and say, over the next 5 years, 4 years, 2 years, whatever your mark is, what is it that we are resourced here at the local church to do or to provide that can help move that number? So the instance of childhood diabetes or adolescent diabetes maybe is at 29%, and they say, like, wait, that's way too high. Well, what programs, what interventions, what resources can we put in place that can measurably make a difference there? How do we make a difference? How do we help to transform the community? We put our heads together, we come up with a plan, we come up with steps, and some of you know how to do all of this strategic planning and putting things in place so that at the end of this time period we can say, well, we have done this, the other, and then here are the results. We have tracked it, we have traced it, and we know that what we're doing is making a difference. Right now, okay, that's good. Let me move on because there's 5 of these. Here's the other one. Let's move to the other one. I'm going to duplicate that. We're going to come in here. Which of these other 3 shall I put first? That's education, that's health. Let's do this. Now, this might turn some folk off. Others are going to be like, yo, finally. Here we go. Boom. Oh, too big. Let's make it smaller so these will fit. So here's another area that I think would be a good place of one of these 5 things. So you've got education, you've got health, but what about crime and social justice? I know that we're on a big social justice kick within our community because it's needed and it's real and it's often overlooked. But we also live in some areas that have some crime issues as well. And so let's be balanced in the approach. Let's be not just balanced, let's be holistic in the approach. What are some of the ways that we can reduce crime and at the same time speak up for and speak out on issues of justice? A lot of times our churches have shied away from that and have not really been involved to the extent that I believe that God is asking for and looking for the church to be involved. And so many times within our systems of government, within our systems of community, the church remains silent on issues that we should be vocal on. When you read Isaiah, particularly Isaiah 59, there's a passage in there, there's a verse in there where God is talking about his people's lack of being involved or engaged in looking out for the oppressed. And there's a verse there where he says, "And I saw no man, there was no intercessor." What does he mean there? I saw no man, there was no intercessor. He said, truth is fallen in the streets, justice stands afar off. There was no man, and there was no intercessor. Most of us have been conditioned to understand intercessor as this relationship that Jesus has with fallen humanity, where he stands in between fallen man, messed up man, and a pure and perfect God. And that's fine, that's good. That's exactly what we understand Jesus to be as our intercessor. But in Isaiah 59, he's not talking about he does not see an intercessor between God and man. He's saying, I see no intercessor between man and man. And I am looking for somebody to speak up, to stand in between oppression and injustice and to make a difference. To stand between the oppressed and the oppressor, to stand between justice and injustice and cry out for justice and make a difference. So that's one of these other elements that I think the church needs of the five, whatever we're calling these: education, health, crime, and social justice. When it comes to crime, maybe there are some other interventions and things that we can do as a church, that we want to make sure that we look out for troubled teens or young people that may be on a track that may seem to produce some bad behavior. Are there some things that we can do to provide some interventions? Are there some safety things that we can do in our community? So that's number 3. Let's go to number 4. Now, we've done a lot of education, we've done a lot of health, we've done very little when it comes to crime and social justice, but we're starting to talk more about that. But let's come down here. We're going to replace this with the next one, which is, what is the next one? Here we go. Weird on this one, I think. Y'all ready? Here we go. Boom. The environment. What? Yep. The environment. The environment. We talk about global warming. We talk about a lot of things that are going on. We talk about these green movements, and they come across as very leftist ideas as far as politically, and it becomes a big political issue in many arenas. But here's the issue. Here's the idea. As far as Seventh-day Adventists, if there's anybody that's going to be interested in the earth and in the conservation of the world that God, it ought to be a Sabbath keeper. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is. There is something in protecting the creation that honors the Creator. And when we talk about being Sabbath keepers, there should be nobody that is ahead of a Sabbath keeper in protecting the creation in honor of the Creator as us, as those people who are people of the book, people who call themselves Christians. We shouldn't leave this to, and I know there are some, probably people would say some very weird tree huggers and all of those kind of things that are out there. But when you think about it, in the day and in creation, one of the things that God did was he gave humanity, he gave Adam and Eve in the garden, the same time he gave them the Sabbath, he gave them custodianship of the earth. And so when it comes to our buildings, our church facilities, our school facilities, there ought to be some interest in making sure that we are doing our best on the conservation end of that. When it comes to our lifestyles, the simplicity of those things, there are probably ought to be some things that we pay attention to when it comes to things like the environment. This came to my attention some time ago, a few years back, when we realized that the fastest growing religion in North America among teenagers was, anybody want to guess what that is? Wicca, witchcraft, form of witchcraft. A lot of our young people, that was the fastest growing religion in North America, was Wicca. And I began to try to figure that out. Why? Well, okay, there's Harry Potter. I'm sure that had something to do with that. And just the enamorment with all of the, all of the fanciful stuff. But then as you dig a little deeper into that, you find that Wicca is one of those religions that honors, yep, you guessed it, Mother Earth. And they look at Mother Earth. And so these kids who are in Wicca, they're also concerned about the melting ice caps. They're also concerned about the polar bears, concerned about these things that the people of God should be concerned about as well. And so as a church, how do we, that's one of those ways when kids are saying, people of God, they don't care about the earth. They don't care about our future. They don't care about preserving it. And I know that particularly as Seventh-day Adventists, we say, oh, well, it's all going to burn anyway one day. So who cares? Just, pollute the earth. Don't worry about pollution. Don't worry about, global warming. We just got to preach the gospel, teach the gospel. Yeah, well, the Savior mingled among men as one who desired their good. He showed sympathy for them, ministered to their needs. Well, listen, clean air is a need. Clean water is a need. He ministered to their needs, and then he bade them follow me. There are some things where something like paying attention to the environment and being a good custodian, a good, what's the word we use? About money, a good steward of that responsibility can put us in a good place to be able to use it as an evangelistic tool, and then just ought to be just a genuine concern to take care of what God has put into our custodianship. All right, so that leaves us with the last one, number 5. All right, we're going to move this down here. We're going to double click this, open up this little text box. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing. And we're going to type in the 5th one tonight. And the 5th one is... Ooh-wee. Here we go. Are we ready? Da-da-da-da. Economic development. One of the areas, one of those 5, spokes of the wheel, ways that churches can make relevant, real impact in our communities is being intentional about boosting the economic development in the areas where our churches are and where we do ministry. We want to talk about, we spend a lot of time in our buildings trying to get people in the church to give money to the church so we can do ministry. Wouldn't it be great if instead of asking people for money, we were providing ways for people to earn more money, to make more money, that we were resourcing them and educating them and teaching and training them and providing opportunities? You know how many people come to our churches, and y'all know this. I know pastors know it. As soon as somebody comes from out of town, off the street or whatever, they bring them to the pastor. So-and-so is saying that the car ran out of gas and they just need a few dollars to get down the road, or they just got kicked out and they're asking for light money, for rent money, for just for something to eat. All of those things come, and oftentimes, so many times in our churches, I always feel bad when I have to send them down to the Salvation Army, or send them down to the 411 number or whatever else, because we simply are not resourced and we don't have what needs to be done to help people where they are. And so creating opportunities, and again, Jesus said, the poor you have with you always, you're not always going to, I mean, we'll never be able to fill all of the needs that are there, but we ought to be able to do something. And so coming up with ways, and this opens up a huge umbrella of ways for a local church to be relevant and to make a difference in their community, and to meet people where they are. Is there a way? So what about helping people become homeowners? Is there a way that we can do that? So we can invite somebody in and teach people how to do that. That's going to boost issues not just with our community, but even with our own members. Being a homeowner, that's one of the greatest sources of generational wealth that we find in our community, is simply owning a home. What about helping people get out of debt? That's part of economic development. Can we do things like that? You can listen. As a local church, you can have everybody in your building can be in debt. You can have nobody in your building who has a clue about what to do. All you got to do is find somebody, invite them in, hand out some flyers, and do a training, do a workshop. Have some veggie dogs and some haystacks and whatever, feed folk, do whatever. Have them come in, have a good time with it, get to some relationship stuff, play some games, I don't know. But just making an opportunity, getting to know some folk and pulling them into your space. And every time we invite people to our building, it doesn't have to be for a Revelation seminar. Doesn't have to be for I'm going to pick on some stuff, some Hope of the Race Crusade. I'm sorry if I picked on somebody's name. I don't remember where I got that from. But it can be for some things that are just as practical in the here and now as the gospel is for the here and now and for the hereafter. How do we do that? Can the church have a smoothie shop? Where you're giving people jobs and stuff? Can you have a little restaurant? Can you go down to, I'm in Fort Lauderdale. There's a big thing down here. If anybody knows Fort Lauderdale, typically you've heard of the swap shop. Big flea market type thing, but it's a very big deal. You get a stall at a flea market and do some stuff. Can you take your kids to put them together? Get them a lawnmower. Let them go start a lawn mowing business or something, and train them how to run the business. Do some entrepreneurial classes for the people in your church as well as for the people in your community. Those are these 5 areas: education, health, crime, and social justice, the environment. Those are some things that I'm looking to foster within our church down at New Hope, down in Fort Lauderdale, that we can really kind of put our hands on, put our hands in, lean our shoulders into, and say, are these things, what can we do in these areas that will make a difference in our community? At some point, again, like I said, we don't have to come up with all of these ideas on our own. To go to the county health education department, the county health department, to go and talk with the sheriff's department or our police department, and say, what are the top 3 crime issues that we have in our city, and how can we help? Go to some of your your advocacy agencies and find out what are some of the justice issues that are affecting the people in our community, and over the course of 3 years, how can we help move the needle? When it comes to the environment, go to your environmental agencies in your communities, in our communities, and say, hey, we believe in being good stewards of our environment, and there's some things that we'd like to do to help. What can we do? What are some of the needs? And then put those things into practice. Have our Pathfinders be engaged in that. Maybe even our whatever groups that we've got to be involved in things like that. And then finally, economic development. Fine. Go to the Better Business Bureau. Go to your there are yes, a lot of our communities have our city governments have. In Delray, what he was called it, the CRA, community. What was it? I can Google that. What does that mean? I forgot what the acronym was. Okay. That theirs was the Community redevelopment agency, community redevelopment agency. A lot of counties or cities have similar things where they're trying to figure out ways to develop their area to make it more profitable for the residents that live there. They're really doing it's really an economic development program. There's going to be generally more than one agency in your city that is dedicated to that. Go sit down, have a talk with them. And you don't have to send your pastor. You can go and do it yourself. Or you can send your pastor or send somebody in your congregation or go with somebody in your congregation that has a heart for that kind of a thing. Get some information, take it back to some folk and sit down and say, okay, what can be done? Those are some things that I'm looking at developing as we go forward, and that at New Hope we're looking to turn into some live streams where we can talk about some of these issues, some of the resources that are out there, build some audience to be able to talk about how the community at large can benefit from some of the resources that we can offer or that we can share. So you'll be hearing and seeing some stuff from us on that. So if you are not watching or a part of the New Hope social media pages, mainly we don't do great at using those social media pages yet, but we're getting there. We have to get there. But still, our website is going to be newhopesda.org, newhopesda.org, and then our Facebook pages and our YouTube channel. So the live streams, the streaming stuff that we will do concerning these things, you'll see on our Facebook, the New Hope Facebook page and the New Hope YouTube channel. Got to figure out how to use the Instagram live streaming. I know everybody does not have access to live stream to Instagram from a desktop yet. I think most of our phones can do that. But as far as hooking up a good camera and to a desktop or a laptop, not sure that everybody has access to that yet. But as soon as we do, we'll even try to do some Instagram stuff on those things. So we'll see what happens. Those of you that have popped in and been with me and listened to me here rattle on, I appreciate you. Would love to get some feedback. I see Roel. Hey, that's our buddy from Corn Island, Nicaragua. Roel says, education is every importance. God is great. Greetings from Corn Island in Nicaragua. Roel, I see you guys doing some good work down there. I catch you every now and then on the radio station there. So we are praying for you guys, proud of what you have been able to accomplish so far. And Wu is saying, I need to change my music because it sounds like game show. Oh, what is this? What's this sound like? I feel like Shaft now. Anyway, good stuff. By the way, these are ideas that no matter where you are, who you are, that I am wide open for input and collaboration. There's always going to be opportunity to get ideas and to collaborate. Wu, I know you're a finance guy, man, and just having you come on and just share and talk about ways for the whole, I took those off the screen, but that economic development and some ideas that a local church could engage in becoming a more relevant entity within the community that makes a difference. It's just gotten to the point now where if all we're doing in our buildings on the weekends is just going through the motions of liturgy the same old way we always have, listen, our churches are becoming more and more empty because people on the outside, let me fix that. Not just because people on the outside have become less and less interested about or in what is going on the inside, but so many of our own people who are on the inside have become less and less interested in what's going on the inside. And I'm talking about even when what's going on the inside is good. Even when the music is on and the preaching is on and everything is just right where it needs to be. Many of us, including myself as a pastor, sometimes I sit there on the rostrum, even when stuff is good, and I'm thinking, yeah, but there's got to be more to it than just this. There's got to be more to it than just this. And listen, these are some ways that God never designed the church to be able to just sit around and worship among ourselves, with ourselves, and that be it, and just kind of go through the rotation of it. Listen, you will, if you have not already, you will get tired, you will get bored of that, because we were created to make a difference, not just to come and sit down. I was talking a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about prayer meeting. We were talking about prayer meeting. We were talking about the role of the church and the Sabbath and social justice and all of the social justice that's built in to the Sabbath commandment, particularly the version that you reread in Deuteronomy chapter 5. And Chaplain O'Rourke and attorney Jason Tracy were with me. And as we were talking through that thing, it came up that we have the audacity to come into church every week, to sit, listen to a song, watch a sermon, and call it service. Like, what in the world? We just came and we sat, and then we said we've been to service or we attended service. Nothing like that was service. Well, that's not true. There are changes that happen when the word goes out. I don't want to diminish that, and I don't want to overlook that. There is power in the word. There is transformative power in the preaching of the word, and I don't want to diminish that, because I do believe that. But I don't think that that's all that this was meant to be. That there's certainly meant to be more to it than just the preaching of the word. And the Bible says that don't just be a hearer of the word, but to be a doer of the word. So I'm excited to see what God has in store. If you're just joining me now, I see I'm just getting ready to sign off, and now I'm getting a few more. But I was going through these 5 elements, and again, I haven't really figured out what to call them. Are they 5 issues, 5 elements, 5 wheels, 5 something that will kind of govern the approach that we use to trying to reach our community in the local church? Education, health, crime, and social justice. Now, we're very familiar with the first 2, education and health. We already do a lot with that, as we should. Some of the other areas that we finished up with are areas that we generally do not do much at all with, and that is crime and social justice. We're getting there with that, but here's the other one back here, the environment. Generally nothing. We usually, there's not a single program of the church or office in the church at the local level or any other level that I am aware of that has us deal with or focus on the environment. And of course, I think that for some, that's a political issue that others would very much choose to stay away from, because it seems to be very left of the spectrum. And those in the church that tend to bend to the right, they're not going to do that. But biblically, we are custodians and stewards of our environment, stewards of the earth. And then the last one was economic development. So those are my five little spokes, 5 little whatever. I'm seeing Woo here. That's right. Change. Yep. Change and update. And our calling and our gifts are meant for service, not to sit and watch a service, but to be of service. All right. That's it. I'm going to tap out now. It is 9:50. And Woo, this track, it's a cooking video background. That's what it's called, cooking video background. We're not cooking. One of these days, we want to see our churches really cooking up some good stuff and feeding not just the good word of God, but good lifestyles and things that will make our communities healthier than they are right now. Blessings, everybody. Appreciate you guys coming through and joining us for tonight's TIWITIK cooking show. Peace.